part of that. Okay, so we're in this series called Scary Movies. Last week we talked about the mummy, people who wrap themselves up in false promises in the name of self-preservation. This week, a little bit different. The Thing is what we're talking about. We're diving through the heart of Jesus' famous Sermon on the Mount, line by line, verse by verse, particularly the section where we're learning how to deal with the difficult people in our lives. So today, at the text that you just heard said cheek slappers. If someone slaps you on the cheek, turn to them the other cheek. What does that mean? We'll talk about it in a second. So the title today, The Thing, because I mistakenly guessed when we were putting this series together that the thing was referring to the hand critter in Adam's family. See, cheek slapper. But no, it's in fact an incredible movie about Antarctica with Kurt Russell. I didn't know that. Now I do. It's a good movie. The hand, I kept waiting for the hand from the Addams Family to appear in that movie. Didn't. So here's the thing. Cheek slapping is probably not something we deal with, is it? Not today, anything, like, I don't know. Like, some of us are probably like going, thanks, Jesus. Thanks for that advice that one time I needed it in third grade at recess. But I haven't been dealing with it since then. So I don't understand why we need an entire sermon on cheek slapping. It's a big deal, all right? It's not a good thing. Like, Jesus is very hyper-specific, it seems. So what is he talking about when he's talking about cheek slapping? Well, believe it or not, this was a very common practice in Jesus' world in the first century in the Middle East under the rule of the Roman Empire. It was very common. It happened all the time. And the idea here of cheek slapping is more like a backhand, right? Backhand to right cheek. And when someone would be doing that motion, and it happened often, what they were doing is demeaning them and putting them in their place. And they're reaffirming their role in the social hierarchy, saying, I'm better than you. So Romans would slap non-Romans. Religious people would slap non-religious people. Wealthy people would slap poor people. People on the inside would slap those on the outside. So slapping is something that happened often. Men would backhand women. Women and men would backhand children. It was very violent, and it was also a culture that did more with their actions than we do today. In America today, fast forward thousands of years to America, our words, we're a far more literate culture, so we try to tear people down and put people in their place with words, don't we? So maybe we're not backhanding people, but maybe we are, though, demeaning people with our words, with our actions, too, with what we're talking about. When we talk about other people, when we otherize other people, and when we reaffirm where we are on the social totem pole and where they are on the social totem pole, we are essentially verbally backhanding people, and we're demeaning people, and it's wrong. It's horrible. When you think about it right now, um, empires need people to be divided and groups to be divided. That's how empires thrive. That's how the Roman Empire governed most of the known world at the time. Because they divided people into groups, and then they encouraged people to put others in their place. Because here's how social totem poles work in empires. Okay? You need to be in a place where you're like, okay, things are not going well for me and my family, but at least I'm not them. Right? Revolutions will never happen if you're part of that system where you're like, it's bad right now, but at least I'm not them. There's always another group to demean. And so everyone got in on the action. Empires need this. And I hate to break it to you all, but America loves Rome. Did you know that? We based everything we do on Rome. We love it. Strong military, right? Influence all over the known world. We love Rome. Do you know why we don't use the metric system? Why are we talking about miles? And why are we talking about pounds? Because we love Rome. Right? These are our Roman weights and measures. That's why we do it. We love Rome. Okay? So America is the most powerful nation on earth, with the largest military on earth, with the most wealth on earth. How are we not an empire? Have we thought about this? All right? So also, just so you know, to maintain that level of authority, we have to do similar things that the Romans did. So we often divide amongst groups, trying to say, well, at least I'm not them. And we try to put other people in their place, saying, at least I'm not that group or those people or other people like that. And we're doing it with our words. Sometimes we're doing it with our actions. This is a common thing. Cheek slapping's happening all over our society right now. Maybe it's not like this. Maybe it's more like this. We're still using the old cheek slappers. We're just using it a little bit different. Okay, but think about this. Think about the groups we've made and the people we've othered in this world. Think about it. All right, think about how life is for those kind of on the outside looking in. Think about how life is in America if you're poor, if you're homeless. Think about how life is in America if you're black, if you're brown. Think about think about our Latino brothers and sisters who are scared right now. Think about it. Think about our gay brothers and sisters who are feeling ostracized and scared right now. Think about the homeless who are feeling scared right now, our brothers and sisters who are homeless. Think about it right now. And if some of you are in here going, I don't know, you shouldn't probably call them brothers and sisters. Here's my aim with this message. Either, either these words of Jesus are going to make your heart ache or your hand ache. Okay? Either our heart's going to go out to these groups of people or our hands are going to start burning. Either our heart's going to be burning for people, the least, the last, the lost, or our hands are going to start burning and you're like, how dare you talk about? Be careful what this hand is doing. And I'm here to tell you, if you're a part of this, if you're just doing what the empire wants you to do, othering other groups of people all the time, every day, if you're doing that, if you're a part of that, I just need to tell you, I'll just say it once, okay, at the top. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is near. And you will miss out what Jesus is here to do if that's your posture and your position, saying, things are not going well, but at least I'm not them. And I want to put them in their place. No, we got a message from Jesus if that's our posture, our heart today. And what he's going to say to this changed the world. Okay? So let's just go ahead and start. I'm in Matthew chapter 5, verse 38. I just want to read it to you today. I love his words in the Sermon on the Mount. I love them. Okay, so he says these words. You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, don't resist an evil person. You've heard that it was said, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. Okay, where does this come from? Let's talk about it. When he's talking about eye for eye, tooth for tooth, he's talking about one of the oldest laws in human history, this law of retribution, this law of retaliation. So if someone puts you in your place, if someone takes advantage of you, if someone demeans you, if someone backhands you, if someone takes something from you, what is your response supposed to be? Human, in every inclination of our heart would say, we need to retaliate. We need to get back at them. You backhand me, I'm getting back at you. That's what's going to happen, right? So I want to talk about retaliation for a second really quick before we start, because I think it's a great undercurrent for what Jesus is saying here. Matthew chapter 18, there's this really interesting little story where Peter comes up to Jesus in Matthew chapter 18, and he goes, Lord, how many times are we supposed to forgive our brothers or sisters who sin against us? Up to 7 times? Peter thinks he's really generous because the going rate in the day was a 3 strikes you're out rule. So if someone messes with you once, you give them 2 more tries. 3 strikes you're out. So fool me once, shame on you. Or fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times, you're dead to me. That's how they thought back then. And Peter says, I want to double that and add 1. How many times are we supposed to forgive someone? Up to 7 times? This is fascinating because it's like, he thinks he's being so generous. And Jesus says to him, no, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times, or 70 times 7. Now, the reason we're fuzzy on the math here is because in the ancient world, when you're saying 77 times, it could mean 490, or it could mean 77. So we put both options in the English translation just in case, because there's a math nerd somewhere reading this. But it's an oddly specific number, isn't it? 77 times? Or 70 times 7? What's he saying here? Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Fool me 77 times, oh boy. Fool me 490 times, look out. Oddly specific, isn't it? Well, where is he getting that number? Well, he's getting it from Genesis chapter 4, okay? First couple pages of your Bible is where he's getting this oddly specific number, 77 or 70 times 7. Here's the story, long story short. Cain murders his brother Abel because he's jealous of his brother Abel because Abel's life is blessed and Cain's life is not. And Cain's like, I need to put him in his place permanently. So he murders his brother Abel. And before he murders his brother Abel, God actually calls out to Cain and says, don't do what you're thinking of doing. Sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must overcome it. If you do not overcome your sin, you will be overcome by it. And Cain ignores that advice and he murders his brother. And Cain is now scared because he's like, oh no, I murdered someone. Someone could murder me. And God says, don't be thinking like that. Don't be thinking in terms of retaliation. If someone messes with you, I'm going to put a mark on you that says if someone messes with you, you'll be avenged 7 times over. So if something happens to you, 7 things will happen to them. So don't worry about it. Well, long fast forward a bit, a couple generations pass. Cain has like a great 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 grandson named Lamech, and Lamech is like Mad Max Fury Road. He's like a biker. He's like hairy. He's strong. He's like rah, Lamech. What a name, right? His name's not Christopher. It's Lamech, and he has an announcement to make. Lamech says, hey, 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 anyone listening, if anyone messes with me, they will not be avenged sevenfold like my great 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 granddaddy Cain. No, they will be avenged 70 times 7, 77 or 490 times. They will. So if you mess with me, I will mess with you that times 77. If you hurt me, I will hurt you times 490. You steal a drill out of my garage, I will steal 490 drills out of your garage. That's what Lamech's saying. So you can imagine what would happen if someone messed with Lamech and then he messes back and then they think they have a right to mess with more people back 490 times. You see how out of control and chaotic that could get really quick? Yeah, just imagine the chaos, the pandemonium. It's like a game of pong from hell. Go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so the question was, when does the madness stop? When does the retaliation stop? And Jesus says, retaliation stops when forgiveness starts. You want to break the cycle? You want to end it? You got to forgive instead of retaliate. That's the only way it stops. So then the question Peter has of Jesus is, okay, if retaliation stops when forgiveness starts, when does forgiveness stop? And Jesus says forgiveness can't stop. Forgiveness must not stop. You must not stop because the second you stop forgiving is the second you start retaliating, and we can't have that. So for thousands of years, people were trying to regulate retaliation. And really famously, this guy named Hammurabi, you might have heard about his code in social studies class in the 5th grade. Hammurabi says, you know what, let's stop this crazy 70 times 7 nonsense, please, and let's just make it one for one. So if you mess with me, I have a right to mess with you one to one. So eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth is what Hammurabi says. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth. You pluck someone's eye out, they have a right to pluck your eye out. Imagine how quickly we can be blind, though, when we do that. So Jesus says, you've heard it said multiple times, even in the Old Testament of your Bible, and 4 times to be exact, in Leviticus, Exodus, and Deuteronomy. It says eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And Jesus says, you've heard that said multiple times. Uh, our, our ancestors loved that Hammurabi code, and they put it in our text as well. They loved it. You've heard that said as a rule of thumb. But I tell you, don't resist an evil person. Now, before we move on here, I just want you to know that this has been twisted. And it's been twisted over the years, these words of Jesus, to justify abuse and staying in abusive situations. to justify oppression and stay in oppressive situations. But if you stick with me and we dig a little bit deeper into what Jesus is actually saying here, you will find that it's a beautiful way to to handle people who think they're better than you. Hi there. Welcome to our first continuity error. Okay, so we had a bit of a technical difficulty where about, I don't know, halfway through our sermon on Sunday, the camera had a bit of a malfunction. So here's what I'm doing because I love you so much. I am refilming this on another day. And so we're going to continue the rest of this sermon for our online audience only. And don't let this recording go in vain. Be sure to share this, like this, comment this. You know what to do. If you have any prayer requests, please put it in the chat or in the messages. And we'd love to get back with you on that. And also, feel free to comment your thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, all that stuff. You know what to do. All right, so back to the sermon. Okay, so the question is, what does Jesus say to do in response to people who think they're better than you? All right, the first thing he said is don't retaliate, right? Don't, you've heard it said eye for an eye, tooth for tooth, but I tell you, don't resist, don't retaliate. Now, people have taken that to mean incorrectly. That means just be a doormat. Be so passive, just let them walk all over you. But if you just stick with me for a few minutes, you'll see that Jesus is saying something far more interesting. He's saying essentially this. When someone thinks they're better than you have two options. Number one, you can give them back what they gave you. That's a taste of their own medicine. That's retaliation. Or you can give them back what God gave you, which is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self control. You can give them back what they gave you, which is play their own game, go down to their own level, try to hit them back harder, or you can give them back what God gave you, which is grace, peace, compassion, forgiveness. Jesus is also going to be telling us something else. Before we get into that, I just want to say something real quick. I thought of this after Sunday, so I just want to share it with you. So this is like an online audience exclusive here, okay? Now, I was saying that people respond um, differently today, 2,000 years later, than their culture did. And one of the key differences between our culture today and their culture back then is they valued actions far more than words, and we value words far more than actions. And so back then, a backhand really meant something. It was really to say, hey, I'm putting you in your place. I'm better than you. You're down here. I'm up here. I'm going to put you in your place. That was an action that spoke louder than words. And Jesus is going to say, respond with another action. Turn the other cheek. But here in our culture today, we like to use our words. We emphasize this with our words. We demean people with our words, don't we? Whether it's a comment online or it's talking about someone behind their back, we put people in their place with our words. And a really sinister thing we started doing. We've been using the word, the book, and we've been backhanding groups and people and cultures. We've been backhanding people with the book. We've been slapping people and putting people in their place, misusing the Word of God as a weapon. And as a pastor, as a teacher, as someone who's devoted his life to studying this book and teaching it, I'm begging you, please stop it. Please don't use this as a weapon to demean people. To do so is to diminish it, to misuse it to the point where it's not useful at all. You're missing it. Please, friends, stop it. Put the book down. Let's if you're not going to read it and follow it, please don't use it to demean other people. Just set it down. I wish you would pick another book. All right? Pick another book to do that nonsense with. It's not helpful. Frankly, it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart. because there's some really amazing things in this book, especially from Jesus. If you would just open it and read it and take seriously what he says. Okay, so enough of that disclaimer. Um, what does Jesus say to do? He's saying to respond with an action. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. Now, our culture is so removed from that we might have some confusion as to what he's talking about. So if you will just indulge me, we will hopefully bridge the gap between his listeners 2,000 years ago and our culture today. And I think you're going to see what he's getting at. So to really unpack this, we need to know the difference between a slap and a punch and the difference between right versus left. So first, let's talk about it. A slap versus a punch. Okay, a slap is a backhand, and it was used by people in authority, and it was used to demean others. It was used to put them in their place. We've already covered that, okay? But a punch was always among equals, okay? So a backhand is for people you think you're better than. A punch is among equals, people who were peers, people who were friends, people who were family. If they had a heated exchange, they would be punching, not backhanding, not slapping. Okay, that's the difference between a slap and a punch. Now we need to talk about the difference between right versus left. Now I know all the Fox News and the MSNBC watchers, they're perking their ears up right now. Sorry to disappoint you. We're not going to waste time with that nonsense. Got something better for you today, huh? All right, right versus left hand, okay? It's a part of the same body. Wow, that's amazing. All right, right versus left hand. There's a difference, and it's a key difference. But before we unpack that, I want to talk about toilet paper. Can we do that? Yay. This is not the sermon you asked for, but it is the sermon you need. Okay, so toilet paper. Let's talk about it. Did you know that the modern iteration of toilet paper was not invented until the 1890s? Isn't that crazy? I have a picture right now I want to show you. It's a picture of the patent, the actual patent for the toilet paper. And I don't know, this is just a small detail. Have you noticed, though, how the patent drawing has the toilet paper wrapping over the front? See, there's been a debate in some households, I'm not going to name names, there's been a debate about which side the toilet paper roll should come down on. Some say it should be the front, like a beard, and others say it should go around the back, like a mullet. My wife and I, when we first got married for the first couple years, we had a fierce battle about this, and I had to get out this exact picture to win one argument with her 3 years into the debate. And I finally proved once and for all that the correct way to put the toilet paper is down the front. If you want to glimpse how the first few years of my marriage was like. Okay, so 1890s. We did not get thistle-free toilet paper until after World War I. So it begs the question, what were we doing for the entire history of humanity up to that point? What were we doing? What on earth were we thinking? Well, I did some research for you, so you don't have to. For a lot of our history, we used corn cobs, used corn cobs, dried out corn cobs. Now, can you imagine how painful that would have been and uncomfortable that would have been? Um, I kind of get the logic, though, like primitive humanity. I kind of get it. Like, they went to Chipotle, they ordered a bowl, they had some corn in the bowl. A few days later, they look into and they go, oh, I have an idea, you know? So that's what we did. Other cultures, though, like Native Americans and Northern Europeans, what they would do is they would put snow on leaves. That's very, refreshing. That would wake you up in the morning for sure. The Romans famously, they had a sponge on a long stick, and they would dip that stick sponge concoction into a bucket of bitter vinegar wine, gall, disgusting, in a bucket. And whenever they went to do what they needed to do, they would take the stick and they would dip it in the bucket, and then they would use it, and then they would wash it out and rinse it out back in the bucket. And everyone in the community would share one bucket with one stick and one sponge. If you're wondering why people died of dysentery, that's why. Okay, the Greeks, here's what they would do. They would take broken pottery, little pieces, shards of broken pottery, and they would even carve into the pieces names of people they did not like. And I can think of a few names, but you carve it into the pottery, and then you would use it there. And then when you were all done with that, you would throw it out into the street. They had a word for this broken pottery, and they called it ostrika. Ostrika. Extra emphasis on the streak. Okay, they had ostrika, and they would throw it out. It's where we get the word ostracized from. So whenever you feel ostracized, it comes from that word, these shards of pottery that people use to go to the bathroom and they throw out. Have you ever felt ostracized before? Have you ever felt demeaned before? Have you ever been put down before? Have you ever been made to feel less than before? Have you been on the outside looking in before? What do you do? How do you respond? Jesus says, turn the other cheek. Back to right versus left, okay? So, I did a lot of research just to make sure on this. Do you know what the people in the Middle East during the time of Jesus used to do that thing? Their left hand. Yeah. There's no evidence of anyone in that region of the world doing anything other than using their left hand for that. Okay? So if you were born left handed, great pains would be taken to make you right handed. So I don't know who's watching this who is left handed, but just understand if you were born left handed, they would do everything in their power to make you not left handed. And because it was considered to be very dishonorable to use your left hand for anything other than that. It was actually illegal to raise your left hand, above your belt line. It's very dishonorable. It's very shocking. They use their right hand for absolutely everything except one thing. And so, if you were to use your left hand, you would be dishonoring yourself. And this was a shame and honor culture. So, you would never, ever use your left hand for anything. So, you would use your right hand to backhand someone. Now, we demonstrated this on this very stage on Sunday morning, and I had a volunteer came up, got a parting prize of this. Volunteer came up and slapped me right here on this stage. And it was awesome. And you're missing out. So if you ever want to come and see the craziness, come on here on Williams and Chestnut Sunday mornings, 9:30. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to see you. Okay, so I got slapped. We demonstrated this. I got backhanded on this stage, and they used their right hand on me, right? So if you're using the right hand, you're going to strike them on the right cheek. Jesus says though, and he's very intentional with what he's saying. If someone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other one as well. Turn toward them your left cheek. And in doing so, you will create a dilemma in the person trying to demean you. You will create a major dilemma. They will either need to punch you or they will be forced to use their left hand. You will force them into a position to either treat you as an equal in front of everybody watching or dishonor themselves further. This is a very powerful teaching of Jesus. If someone thinks they're better than you can respond in a dignified way. You can refuse to be made less than. You can demand that they treat you equally or dishonor themselves further. You're leaving the ball in their court. You're leaving the choice up to them. You're saying, no, I refuse to be demeaned. Treat me as an equal or dishonor yourself further. That is a powerful, revolutionary teaching. Another way we could put it is when someone thinks they're better than you, show them what a better person looks like. Okay? We've been saying this. Uh, if someone uh, if someone comes against you and tries to put you in your place, You can give them back what they gave you, you can retaliate, or you can give them back what God gave you. And God is here saying, show them what a better person looks like. When someone thinks they're better than you, show them what a better person looks like. This teaching changed the world. It is a revolutionary teaching. And many demeaned groups of people throughout human history have used this because they learned quickly that the powers that be are counting on you to retaliate. All right? They want you to fight back. A Roman soldier would love to see you try to fight back because then they can stomp you out. But Jesus is saying, no, instead of fighting back, instead of retaliating, instead of giving them back what they gave you, what if instead you turned the other cheek and said, I refuse to be demeaned. You will either treat me as an equal or you will dishonor yourself further. This changed everything. Most famously in America during the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement took this teaching to heart and it ended Jim Crow oppressive laws. Okay, it just changed everything. Back then, people were like, okay, it's white and black, and whites are better, and blacks are lower on the totem pole. So we will have whites only establishments and whites only restrooms, whites only drinking fountains, whites only seats on the bus, whites only swimming pools. And the civil rights movement said, we're going to we're going to force the issue here and demand that we be treated equal, or invite you to dishonor yourselves further. There's a famous story of Rosa Parks sitting in the wrong seat on the bus, and they had to throw her out and dishonor themselves further. There's famous stories of black people swimming in whites only swimming pools, and the swimming pool establishment owners, they would dump acid on them. They're demeaning them, they're dishonoring themselves further, and eventually it caught on. Being thrown out of diners, being thrown out of places. It showed how ridiculous the whites only idea is. And the people who are dishonoring themselves further, they will usually choose the dishonor themselves further option. They get relegated to the dustbin of history. They're on the wrong side of history. And it shows the world and everyone watching just how silly and ridiculous they are being. So you say, you know what? I'm going to refuse to be demeaned. You think you're better than me? I'm going to show you what a better person looks like. You're going to do this to me? Instead of giving back what you gave me, I'm going to give back what God gave me, which is grace and mercy and forgiveness and compassion and dignity. I refuse to be treated any less than a loving child of God. And I'm going to show you what a better person actually looks like. And here's the thing about Jesus. His his actions matched his words. He's not just saying this, okay? He lived this. He lived this throughout his entire life and ministry. He lived it even on the cross when they said, okay, we've had enough of this Jesus guy. We're sick of it. And they end up crucifying him. And they're kicking him and mocking him and spitting on him and making him go take this cross through the streets, and they nail him to the cross and they string him up high, and he's bloody and beaten and naked, and he's in a horribly undignified position, yet he responds with dignity on the cross. He's forgiving them. He's saying, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And Luke's Gospel, chapter 23. I just want to read this for you, and just let these words, let these words sit with you. Just see not only how Jesus lived, but how he died. Okay, let's just read this here. The people stood watching, and the rulers even sneered at him. They said, he saved others. Let him save himself if he's God's Messiah, the chosen one. They are daring him. They are begging him to retaliate, even in death. If you really are the Son of God, save yourself, unnail yourself from the cross, come down here and stop us. Retaliate. That's all the world knows, right? And then it says this, the soldiers, the Roman soldiers, also came up and mocked him. and they offered him wine vinegar, the kind that's on a sponge, on a stick. And they said, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." And Jesus turns the other cheek. He wants no part in that. He said, "Even in death, I'm not going to allow you. I'm not going to allow you to treat me this way. I'm not going to respond the way you want me to respond. I'm even going to turn the other cheek in death. You think you're better than me, and you think I'm going to prove I'm better than you by coming down off this cross and slapping you harder. No, I'm going to show you what a better person looks like by offering forgiveness and dignity and compassion and grace and mercy and peace. That's that's who we're serving here. When we say we're serving Jesus and we're following in Jesus' footsteps, that's what we're talking about. We're not the type of people who retaliate. That's what the powers that be are counting on us to do. We don't do that. Instead, we show them what grace and compassion and love and mercy look like in action. A few days later, after he gave up his spirit, he rose from the dead. Jesus rose from the dead. And we call that Easter Sunday for those who celebrate Easter Sunday. And for those paying attention, notice we're not calling it Retaliation Sunday or, oh snap, he's back with a vengeance Sunday. No, he simply comes out and he says this over and over again: grace and peace, grace and peace be with you. That's what he responds with. So when someone demeans you or tries to put you in your place or sins against you, you have two options, friends. You can give them back what they gave you, which doesn't no good for anybody, or you can give them back what God gave you. And my prayer is that you would respond accordingly. Uh, Grace and peace to you all. Thank you all for tuning in today. Again, we meet here in person on Chestnut Avenue at 9:30 a.m. on Sunday mornings. We'd love to see you sometime. If not, we'll be right back here next week. Grace and peace to you all. It's good to see you all. Have a great and wonderful and blessed week.